Hello again. Here we have Tuesday's drawing class. We have a beautiful smiling blonde woman here, which will we have an axis of hairline to the nose, split where the teeth are, and we have an angle, a 10-degree angle. We'll measure 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts. So basically, end of the nose to the chin to the end of the nose, end of the nose to the eyebrow, hairline, hairline to the end of the skull. And we have the hair on the top of that, so that will be a little bit hard, but mostly hard. The hardest thing will be basically the teeth and the mouth, which is basically very difficult to, well, not, it's difficult to deal with because we're not going to measure or count the teeth here. We just have to deal with it as a unified form and a shadow and some, or at least a degree of some teeth showing, but not all of them. And of course, how to make a smiley eye. Imagine if she was not, you can see that she's smiling because we have the yeah, they call crow feet, yes, under the eye. So that will make it look like a smiley eye, see. And but of course, if we reveal most of it, then we know that it follows with the cheek and the cheek taking the form of the smiley face with all these wrinkles. Well, they're not really wrinkles, but it's the muscles and the flesh which is taking the shape of the muscles beyond or under the skin. Okay, so let's start with the portrait. Let's start with the drawing. Okay, so let's go to our 60s smiling tilted head blonde woman. As we said, let's go and get as we mentioned earlier on, we have the axis or the line which goes in the middle, and that's the split of the hair. Where's on the split of the hair we have the nose here and the teeth somewhere here. I will make sure that I have the end of the chin, or somewhere at the end of the chin. So instead of going up there, I probably will get a little bit, it will be a little bit hard to finish the hairline or the hair there. So it will be best if I drop and move the axis a little bit more to the right, and also drop the head down. So if I drop the head down, and I will measure the end of the chin, and the hairline, then I have that axis in the middle, and the hair will be there somewhere here. So do you remember well, as I mentioned, we've said that I've said end of the chin, tip of the nose, or beginning of the nose to the eyebrow line, and eyebrow line to the hairline, and hairline will be, so it'll be 3 equal parts. Well, they're not really equal because each and every person's got their own measurements of their particular features, but mainly they're correct. 1, 2, 3, hairline to the end of the head. So now let's get I'll keep the hairline here and come around with a sweeping line of the face, which is mostly, it's not correct, but I cannot be correct at this stage of the drawing. Then you have another line here coming through, which is the hairline, and that will be, again, I will treat it in very, very generalized terms like this, going and doing that general line, and that doesn't mean it's correct again, but I have to start from somewhere. And this is the end of the hair, and the hair goes something like that here, moves up a little bit more. I need to be sure that I have everything on the camera so it doesn't exceed the camera scope, so I don't want the portrait to be off the camera. So here we have the hair coming up, portrait here, hair here, and let me see, there. So I don't want to have a bad composition, and you cannot see where I'm going with my charcoal here. Okay, now we got the hair there, nose, eyebrow. As I have the eye cavity here, the eye cavity there, nose. That's the middle line, and we have all these areas in the shadow. All this side of the face is in the shadow, and I have the other side of the face here in the shadows here also. Okay, and let's continue with the shadow here, which I've done where that's the forehead, hairline. I think I need to drop a little bit the hairline. Drop the hairline here, another equal part, and then from the nose to the chin. And that's the jawline, hairline. I've got the ear. I've got the line here, shadow here, shadow here as well. There, that's the end of the face, the beginning of the hair, forehead, hairline. No, hairline is here, but that's the side of the hair, and that's the split, the hair split. Hair split here, and this is the end of the hair. I've got the sideburn, if you can say that on a female sideburn, but I'm treating it as a sideburn. Then you have a bit of a shadow here, shadow, and that's the cast shadow of the hair. Then you have the forehead. I'm trying to get rid of the lines now because these are my helping lines, or let's say the scaffolding lines of an edifice, which is the head. And you have the cheekbone and the smiley face. This is where the teeth are. Upper lip, lower lip, end of the end of the lip. Then you have the jaw, cheek, eye cavity, the eye cavity. I mean where the eye has been actually placed. And you have the side of the nose. This is the middle of the nose, where the nose, the axis where the nose goes, actually in the nose, the axis which connects the split of the hair with the middle of the nose and the teeth. We're talking about an imaginary axis because there's no axis on the head, obviously, but this is how to get in the right angle of the portrait. Eye, get the same angle of the eye. You have the left eye, her left, or our right if you like. The eyebrow, side of the cheekbone. The jawline goes more to the left. See, because I've started developing the face more to the right, but actually, as I have the axis here, the angle, the line, the middle line, the imaginary line, then I should have gone more to the left with the jaw. But as I'm working, I've just realized. Also, it's a little bit slightly harder to work and talk as well. So then you start making like major mistakes. whilst you talk and draw. Then we have the upper lip, cheekbone, and again a little bit wider on this side of the face, mouth, the eyebrow moving up, higher than that, there, cheek, on the side of the cast shadow of the cheek. Let's get some darks from the hair and spread it here on the face. That makes a very, very soft shadow here. And then we have the ear, hairline, the hair where the hair is actually ending. That's the 60s style hairline, basically. And having the cheekbone here, having the eyebrow there with a little bit of a lighter tone of value. That's the cast shadow of the hair. There. And you have another, that's where the hair starts getting in, creating that roundness. Darker tone here on the hair, or appears to be darker. Also, it's important, you can actually make black and white pictures when you have a colored, well, nowadays every picture comes in for the last decades, basically every digital picture is in color, but you can, it helps when it's in black and white. So this is why I've chosen this. Although I could do a contemporary portrait with black and white, that's not an issue. It can be done, but because on that period, on the 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, black and white photography was actually seen as very artistic and very special and beautiful, and the lighting is, the studios were all geared up to create those dark and light shadows which are missing. Nowadays with the digital photography, you can take a picture wherever, in any light conditioning. So I think that helps as well, having the picture in black and white. Then you have the ear coming up here, end of the ear and beginning of the nose here, or here, the beginning of the nose or the nostril. That's where the ear, or no, it's a bit higher than that, so up here. Then I can have the jaw extended down here, and eye, bring the eye there, looking at the camera there, and having the pupil here, and the upper eyelid looking towards us. And I just want to make sure that I have the angle correct. So of course this eye is higher and that is lower, but do I have that angle correct? Probably yes. At the moment I cannot see any major mistakes. And a little bit darker tone of value here. Then you have the forehead. This is where it doesn't appear to continue with the head narrative here. Then you have the cheekbone. As the head is turned, I think this is a bit wider here, so I need to come and revisit all this area here. There, and get the turn of the head. Here is where her shoulder comes up. The hairline, or the hair, actually appears to be a lot wider here, or a lot more fluffy here, but it's not the case. So I need to soften the whole this area and get those lines, or get the hair maybe merged with the background a little bit more. And cheekbone, probably, we'll start measuring again. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have cheek to the end of the nose, end of the nose to the eyebrow. That's the second. And the third measurement is to the hairline. Let's see, is that correct? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that appears to be good. And then we've said, as I mentioned, the fourth part is somewhere here, but we don't see it because it's the hair. But I think roughly is correct. The portrait is going not too bad at the moment. I just need to soften all these shadowy parts of the portrait. And drop the hairline. I'm thinking again of checking correctly, checking for the right angle and having it correctly placed here. Okay, having that angle here, having the cheekbone a little bit further out, having the hair, the face, having the angle of the face correctly. All good so far. Now bring the jawline a little bit further up, but that will be a shadowy line here, or a middle tone, because it's not as high, it's not a perfect line or an explicit line, so it's a soft line merged with the neckline. Now hair, cast shadow of the hair, we have the hair here. Again, the turn of the hair. Few lines to show that the hair is actually getting that angle here, which is the hairstyle that she's having on this picture. Now, the split between the hairline, or the hairline, is on a vertical line, goes right to the tear duct, which it does on me as well, on my drawing. Upper eyelid, eyebrow, a upper lip, bit darker tone, and the end of the lip is on a vertical line here. So this is the end of the lip. From the tear duct, drop it down a vertical line, and this is the lower lip. Again, the end of the lip on the left hand side, as we see it, is by the end of the eye, so somewhere here. appears to be there. There. And some darker tone here. The top of the ear is up here, or the beginning of the ear or end of the ear is there. Dark tonal value here. Dark tonal value in the whole that left hand side. And not forget that we're dealing with a blonde model, so we don't go too dark with the hair to show that light hair. Then you have the neck, chin here, lower lip, a little bit darker. I think I need to come with a little bit of a darker line here. And you have the hair moving upwards. Again, some highlights of the hair. Again, not too dark because we don't want to go too black to portray that with black charcoal, to portray that that again, as I said earlier on, the blondness or the lightness of the hair. Now the nose again, just a highlight on that side. I'm probably getting slightly off because as the nose, do you remember we've spoken about the axis? Yes, that's a continuous line, but the nose goes slightly off that straight line because it's taken, and as she's 3/4 almost facing us, the nose also, if the head moves that way, the nose slightly get off the middle axis or middle line, the imaginary line. Bit of a darker tone to show that smiley cheekbone or cheek, because the bone we don't see, and then some dark hairlines or hair, and the hairline is here, but the hairline is a lot more visible right here where you have the direct light. As it comes on the right hand side, where the shadow is, then the hairline blurs. Then you have the eyebrow here. We've got the beautiful teeth. I know they're white, but we cannot keep them or make them white here. I'll keep at least half of the hair on a slightly lighter tonal value. And actually, I can even give them a little darker tone here on the light parts. On the light part, not parts. Now take some dust with my middle, small finger, and then create a little bit of a shadow here. Look. There. And the cheekbone. Again, lift some darks from the hair and soften the eyebrow, because I think it's quite strongly put here, strongly placed. And I think this eyebrow is slightly higher up here. There. And eyebrow, a little bit of upper eyelid here. A double line of the upper eyelid. And bring the eyes a little bit closer together. There, right there. Eyebrow. Upper eyelid. There. A little bit of pupil. Eyebrow up here. Those darks are helping out to soften everything else, to soften those middle tones are quite helpful now to keep them, to create volume. Without middle tones and dark tones, there's no way we can create volume. So here we are. And a little bit of a hairline here. Cheekbone, a little bit darker. Tonal value here. Darker tone. Darker tone here. Keep the nose on, keep the line of the nose, the separation of dark and light a little bit stronger. That's the chin. The only line I have of the chin which is strong is right down here. There. Okay, now let's go to the zoom on the face a little bit more on my original picture here. She does appear to have that from the chin to the nose, that part looks smaller. She's got a small jaw basically. This particular lady, which I don't know the name of her. It's not stated here. And so she does have a small jaw. Keep in mind, and these are things that you, with the time, you start developing this. Seeing things which you see on most people will have a more of a. It's not that she doesn't have a regular face; it's a very regular face. The only thing is that she does have. You see, these are the small details which make the one person distinguished from the other. So she does have a small jaw, and that appears to be smaller from the tip of the nose, the end of the nose, to the chin, than from the end of the nose or beginning of the nose to the eyebrow. Okay, now let's see and check this on the original picture. Yes, it's not the exact 3 parts that I was measuring. So that chin to the end of the nose, it's right end of the nose too, that's correct. But then the hairline is quite high on me and should drop a little bit to match this particular face features. Okay, so now with the help of the putty rubber, let's first of all lower the hair here, because I think it's quite high on me. So lower the hair. I think also I can bring that side, the right hand side of the hair, more to more, and cover it here, or restrict the hair here. Bit of hairline, sorry, the hair, the light of the hair, and we have light coming right here. There's one. That line which I've added earlier on is quite dark, so I'll try and soften it a little bit more. There we are. Also, as I said, that part of the face, of her face, is quite small. She's got a small jaw. Let's repeat those things so we keep them in mind, not to make mistakes. As I'm trying to look at the angle of the nose, there is an angle to that, to the middle axis, or the axis of middle of the face. The axis is all around here, and then we have that line here, or where the nose separates from light to dark. Light on the left, dark on the right. And get rid of those middle tones. There. Okay, it's taking a little bit more shape. It's looking a little bit more like her. And this is the whole point with portraits. If it doesn't look like, let's call her Anna. If it doesn't look like Anna, then that's it. In this case, we're not commissioned to draw Anna, but if we were commissioned to draw Anna, of course, it's important to look like her. But as we learn to draw portraits, this is not the goal here. The goal here is to create a smiley face, blonde woman tilted, and this is that is hard enough. So let's not get into the likeness, at least not now, not with this portrait. The distance from the nose, end of the nose, to the upper lip is quite small, and a little bit of light here as well. The light on the eye there, a little bit lighter than that. Now the white of the eye, we just see a tiny bit of it, not much. And tip of the upper lip, nose, nostril. Now that soft tonal value here, which makes the cheek rounded, and a little bit of a straighter line here, and drop that line a little bit lower this way there. So that creates that jawline. Dress. That's the end of the chin and the cheek as well here. Here we are. And bring that lower lip a little bit higher, because I think it's dropped a lot, quite a lot. There. Get that line a little bit less, or the lip line a little bit further up. There. Correct. So the lip doesn't look like a double lip. Teeth. White of the eye. the eyebrow, just to highlight the eyebrow, make a bit of a lighter tone there to highlight the eyebrow. The forehead, bring the forehead a little bit down here, and the neck, bring the neck a little bit lower. Bit darker tone of value here, there, to create that neck line. And you have the highlight between the eyebrow and the eye, there. See, lower the eyebrow a little bit, and also make it kind of transparent in the sense that it's not as dark as that, because we've said we're dealing here with a blonde woman. And the hairline a little bit lighter here, and hairline here. A vertical line from the hairline, it's right up the eye here. So what I'm actually saying, a vertical line from the hairline just goes here. So here we are, dealing with the darks, getting the darks a little bit lighter, well, lighter here, lighter tone of value here, a little bit of a lighter tone here, and as I said earlier on, just lighter on the cheekbone, actually on the cheek, there, lighter tone of value, and that makes it, and keep the area, the light area lighter and the dark area darker. Whereas without adding a little bit more darks, we keep it at this tonal value, not darker than that. What I need to add here is to create or increase that line here, up there, there. That's a double line of the eye here. And a little bit darker than that, maybe a soft dark tone under the eye, that helps. Keep that area between the nose and the eyebrow a little bit lighter, like I'm lightening it up a little bit more now, but also create a very soft, very soft tone between the dark area of the forehead and the light area. This is the lightest area. This is slightly darker tonal value there. And there, softly merging the tonal value of the light area of the forehead. Now, the brush will help. I think my fingers are all dark, so I'm actually choosing to work with the brush here. You can do that, or you can do it with your fingers. I think the brush will help a little bit more. And make that lighter tonal value there to create and shape up the eyebrow, sorry. And what I see here, there is a very extremely subtle difference, well, extremely, a bit exaggerated. It's a very subtle difference between, there is a very slight tonal value on the top of the forehead, which is this one, and a very light tone here. So I'm actually creating that tonal value, lighter tonal value in between the eyebrow and the eye, and slightly dark tone of the forehead. Even though this is the lightest area of the forehead, it's still that part here. It's because it reflects the light. And here, slightly darker tone. And a little bit of a cheek here, roundness of the cheek. Here we are. And with the brush, I can soften the ear here, make it a bit of a lighter tone, but with the brush, and that will give me a very precise line with the brush. It's a bit like working with the charcoal there. Now, and the top of the ear, or the beginning of the ear, it's quite high, is there. Actually, so it's correct, it's here. Now, that is where I can now play about a little bit with that line and soften that, soften this line here, and soften all, especially the top of the hair like this. Now, why is that? Because this is the part of the hair which is further away from us. And I'm choosing to make a little bit of a effect here with the brush. Now this area is the furthest away, and also as it goes further out, you get a very light tonal values here. There, here we are, and bring here darker tone, bit of an angle here on the jaw, a very beautiful shadow of the hair here on the neck, and soften that hair, which goes and moves about or just disappears beyond. Very, very soft hair beyond the big masses of the hair here. And a light tone between the cast shadow of the hair on the eye and the forehead. And a darker or lighter tone, or where the hair splits on a vertical line, will go right up the eye. So the hair splits here. I'm deviating from the first axis slightly, because now we're going to very particular parts of the hair, face, features. So I need to be as accurate as possible for the portrait to look like, let's call her, as I said, Anna. And now I think I've gone a little bit too wide here on that side of the face. So what I'm actually trying to do here is a cheekbone, and place and shape the cheek. Sorry, it's not cheekbone, the cheek. Cheekbone, we don't see it. You have the cheek, which is taking that shape, and that makes it a lot slightly darker here. And also the nostril. I think I've lowered the nostril quite a bit here, and I'm coming back and bringing it up a little bit more. And have that a little bit more, the eyebrow or the upper eyelid a little bit higher than that. Place the, or bring the lower lip a little bit more to the left. There. That very short distance between the end of the nose to the upper lip. That's a characteristic of Anna. And what I think I need to do here is to increase the length of her teeth. Higher. Just bring it up a little bit more. There. There. And possibly highlight a little bit more the white of the eye. There. That was too strong. I can come bring it back a little bit more, or lower the eyelid a little bit more here. And the pupil. And I think I need to place or increase that double line of the upper eyelid. And create a little bit of a shiny bit on the eye, which is not, it's not actually there, but I think it helps me and you to create that direction of her look where she's actually looking at. Yeah, that's better. Here we are. Okay, she's looking at the same. Is she looking at the same direction? I think it's correct. Yes, it does. Or maybe not. No, I think she is. Yes, she is. And a little bit of a straighter line here. There. Bring a little bit the upper lip higher. And create that light tone or middle tone here. Between the lower lip and the chin, and possibly bring the chin a little bit higher as well. And I think I need to also lower a little bit the hairline. So a dark line here, but then as I mentioned earlier on, it merges with the soft hair. Bit sharper line here and less sharp on the cheek, and bring the cheek a little bit more to bring that line more to the left. There the line which separates the cheek from the hair. And some highlight of the hair that connects with that big strand of the hair here, light strand of the hair. And the cheek itself, slightly lighter. I think this eye is now becoming a little bit bigger than that eye, and actually it's the opposite. This eye needs to be a bit smaller, because as the head moves that way, If she's tilted, this eye is more prominent. So, I mean, sometimes it's advisable to make the eyes bigger because she looks prettier. But here we're dealing with another issue. If you make it much bigger than they actually are, then it creates the opposite effect. You can straight away see that there's something wrong there. Okay, this is her actual dress. Chin up here. Have that hairline or the hair coming right down here. Trimming the hair from this side to make it smaller. Bring the hair down or just leave the background like this, kind of a complete misty look, which is not bad actually, quite good the way it is. And do you remember we've said that this is the lightest area on the whole of the forehead. And bring the nose where it is here, and possibly a little bit of a tonal value here, slightly darker tonal value on the cheek, and that will create, when I darken it slightly more here, that creates more of a nose, just shapes up the nose. And do you remember that I think I mentioned it earlier on, that the eyelid creates a shadow here. Her beautiful eyelid creates a little shadow here. There. And give her a slightly tonal value, well, not a very dark tonal value on the upper lip, so that shapes the upper lip a little bit more. There. And you have the lower lip too. I think I need to restrict this eye a little bit more also. And create that darker tone here on the forehead. See, I'm darkening it a lot more than what is actually going on there, because that helps my narrative side, my narrative here, because I'm actually darkening a lot more when off from the original, because the original is not as dark, that side of her face. But why is it helping me? Because it creates more value, creates more depth, depth. And it makes the portrait kind of jumping out. Although I'm darkening it a little bit too much. But kind of like it. So it's also a little bit depends on the viewer, depends on the artist. If you like the portraits a little bit darker than they actually are, but not on the hair. As we said, we're dealing with a blonde person here. We'd create that light look on the hair. And bring the chin a little bit higher as well. We've said from the end of the nose to the chin, that that third is smaller than most people on this particular face. Because we said this is her characteristics that makes Anna, Anna. Again, this is not her name, but we're just making it up. Just to give her, to know what we're talking about. Okay, now I will mute myself and I'll do the last few details here to look a little bit more like her. Okay, well, I'll try anyway.